people. But there's still amazing fish there. We go there for dogtooth tunas, which are about my favorite.
That is your
So
favorite? That is a
yeah,
badass looking fish, man. I've never caught
isn't
one
it
of
cool?
those, but that is, I mean, the first time I ever saw a picture of one of those, I just thought that's
What
like,
is this? Can't be real.
yeah. I mean, it's like a barracuda tuna. It's the
Mhm.
weirdest thing ever, but those got to be like one of the greatest predators in all of in the whole ocean.
Man, they are bad. Like you'll shoot a fish and there'll be a frenzy of sharks kind of like this eating it, and a dog tooth will come rushing in and just. I didn't realize you had this video here, so I'm actually going to get bumped by one of these sharks here in a
Oh,
second.
really? Okay,
You'll
cool.
see me flinch. Yeah, watch. Um,
It
I
looks
think
like
it's this one. It
looks
might be
like
the next one.
Louisiana. I don't know where that is, but that was our experience in Louisiana right there. Just a
Yeah,
billion of those little sharks everywhere.
I can't remember where that was. Um, but yeah, those are all spinners and black tips, so they're not even worried. That's just that same migration that we have off of here.
Hmm.
When there's a billion of them. But yeah, this is what makes diving so awesome. Is even if you're not getting anything, which we were getting plenty of fish. Uh, I mean, how amazing is this experience? I mean, you would think you'd just be dead right here. Most of those are like 6 foot sharks.
But no, I mean you've got so much experience now, and when I'm around, I'm not an expert spear fisherman by any stretch of the imagination. I like getting in the water, but don't have the kind of experience that you or Steve or Jake Perry or any people like that have. But when I watch Jake in the water, he's totally fine with some situations. Other situations, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, look, he's done it before where he says, "Okay, time to get out," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, no arguing, absolutely, whatever you say goes."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't even ask him what he saw down there. Like he's
Yeah.
just like, "Yep, time to go." And but you have, I guess, some different protocols when you are spearfishing with one of your buddies versus spearfishing with some of your clients. Like there's a skill level, there's a comfort level. How do you kind of communicate with people that you haven't spent as much time with in the water to find out where their comfort level is, where their skill level is, and like what situations you're going to be comfortable
Mm-hmm.
taking them? I'm sure just like a fishing guide, that happens very, very quickly after you've been at it for
Mm-hmm.
a while. But it's kind of a something that I'd like to know about as well.
So one thing that is unique with our business is unlike a normal fishing charter, which is usually you guys got a new six pack every day or two or three guys, whatever. We have the same groups over and over. So, and again, they're usually 3 or more day trips. So before any trip, everybody has to have a free dive class.
Yeah.
And for anybody watching here, if you're even remotely interested in free diving and spearfishing, go take that class. There's no better preparation for it, and we won't do a trip unless someone has had
Now
that.
you offer that
It
you
teaches
offer
you the
that as well
safety,
as other
your
people,
body.
right? Like you have
We
those
do.
classes,
Yep.
but there's other classes besides your own classes, right?
Correct. Obviously, get it from whoever, but if you guys want a class, contact me and I'll get you set up. So that gives you a baseline to work off of because you're the most dangerous thing in the water to yourself and to everything around you if you're a good spear fisherman. But being safe in the water is the most important thing, and I want the clients to be able to watch me too, because the only thing that matters is that everybody comes back. I mean, we're gonna get good fish, I promise you, but safety is the paramount thing. And uh, the environmental factors, it's a play by play call, if that's a good way to
Yeah.
explain it.
Well,
You
the
know,
ocean's a very
there's
fluid place. You got all kinds of things are changing all
mhm,
the time.
right, and you can tell the personalities of the sharks and stuff. There's gonna be that wild one, that does bite somebody, but it's usually pretty situational, and we prep people for that. So, okay, we know we're in the Bahamas, we're gonna dive this cut. That's like a guaranteed chance for a shark to come that is very conditioned to even hearing the pole spear go. So you shoot that fish, you get him out of the water very quickly, and you're always looking down and around. People get so focused on looking at like what's in their hands, they don't look at the big picture, and that's how you get hurt. But yeah, there's definitely situations where you're like, okay, it's about to get bad here. Don't shoot anything.
Mm,
Let's move.
got it. Yeah, and you can see that like with enough experience, like you can see the
Hmm.
attitude of all the animals, and it's like, man, if we shoot something, it is on. I mean, you can see
Right.
that above the water. You know, when you're fishing,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, now it's time to put the bait in because
Yeah.
the chum has worked and it's happening.
Hmm.
So a couple of people chimed in there while we were talking about that the video froze for just a second. They were wondering about the info on the classes. Let's talk about your classes. Where do you find out about your classes, and how would somebody take one of your classes?
You just send me a message. So we do all private classes. Most of what we do is go to the people's house and we'll teach we actually have one going on today. So it's 4 hours of classroom where you teach everything you could ever imagine about free diving, your body, and the process of free diving. And then you take that. The next step is the pool, which you usually do in the afternoon. That's about 3 hours in the pool with just refining your basic technique and getting your breathing, uh, kind of trained up. And then there's about another 3 or 4 hours out in the open water. And then, excuse me, the entry level course takes you to, still there?
Yep,
Um,
I can hear you. The
I,
video froze for a second.
yeah, I'm froze up. It looks pretty awesome. Um, hopefully,
It'll catch up, I think.
uh, so the open water portion, we take you to, I think the max is 66 feet. And I would be very surprised that anybody that's here talking back and forth wouldn't be able to do a 3 minute breath hold and 66 feet. You want to kick me out and then kick me right back on and see if it
Mm,
unfreezes?
let's see what happens. The comments are still coming through, but
Yeah.
we'll try for just a second longer. So you think that you can get pretty much anyone to a 3 minute breath hold and 66 feet deep?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that'll be, so that's our next challenge. If and when you and I can get together, I'll come down there and I'll teach you the class.
Man,
And I'm
I would
pretty
love
much
that.
guarantee it. Yeah. And it makes a big difference, in what opportunities it opens up for diving.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
kick me off real
Okay,
quick and then
okay.
then have me
We're
join.
gonna stop this, and then we're gonna come right back. So all you people, come right back. Okay, we had a little problem. We're going to share this to story. We're gonna go live again. Sorry about this. A little bit of an issue. Going live right now, and hopefully everybody will return. Um, so sorry about the delay. Sorry about the technical issues. Hopefully Cam is going to be right back here. Not seeing him yet. Maybe I missed him. Okay, we're talking about the free diving classes. He believes that there's Cam. Okay, go live. Okay, so we're picking up back where where we were. Cam's going to be on here. There he is. Okay, so we were talking about the free diving classes and
Mm-hmm.
how you feel like anybody can get to 3 minutes and 66 feet after just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of instruction.
Yeah, basically a day and a half class, and it really is eye opening. I grew up spearfishing. My family spearfished. All of our extended family from the Cayman Islands spearfished. So we just grew up doing it, and we didn't have any technique. We just powered through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't take the class till I was probably in my mid 30s, and I was like, nobody's teaching me anything about free diving. I mean, we've been diving 100 foot since we were kids. And the first day of the first class, I was like, holy cow, how are we alive? Like, just the smoothness of the way that the instructor dive and the way he showed us how to do it and the way to do the breathing, I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe we didn't do this. And it's pretty amazing. And it's nice to have raw talent, like people that have never done it and don't really have any bad habits. It's really nice to teach them, but that's a part of being a good teacher, is the challenge of also being able to teach an old dog, who's
Mm.
stubborn,
Yeah. How important
but
do you think it
it's
is?
unbelievable.
What about like breath hold in particular? How important is physical conditioning to the length of breath hold? Does that translate? Like if you're in better shape, you're probably going to be able to learn a little faster, or is it all about technique?
It's a combination for sure. It's a balance. Obviously, the better shape you're going to be in, the less fatigued you're going to get. I couldn't go out and run a couple miles, but I can outswim anybody. Like I can swim all day. It's just the way my muscles are in my
Mm-hmm.
legs. Um, but if you're able to be in relatively good shape, like anybody that bikes or runs or does a cycle or whatever, like they're going to be fine. And your body is used to straining itself and then relaxing, straining itself and relaxing, because that's what you're doing all day long.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I did ask or told people that I was going to leave a little bit of time for some questions. I have some questions I'd like to just kind of fire at you real quick, and you can spend
Sure.
as much time or as little time. And I'd want to leave time for some people to ask questions since this is our first live Instagram podcast, inspired by you, by the way. I love what you're doing with with the evening things. Very disappointed that you didn't
Yeah.
get Mark the Shark on yet. Has that happened, or did I miss
Oh
it?
man,
Or
I haven't done it yet. He's such a pain.
yeah, well, I
he's
had it.
he's
He
a
was
piece
on
of
this
work.
podcast too. It was the most
Yeah.
controversial, the most popular, the most shared podcast of any of them that we've done. Um,
Good.
he's a very interesting guy. I actually quite enjoyed
Yes.
spending some time with him, despite what you think
He's
of him.
knowledgeable, man.
Dude, the guy works 400.
Yeah.
I mean, he takes 400 trips a year. How do you not learn something spending 400 days a year? Anyway,
Yeah.
this one's not about Mark
He's
the
an animal.
Shark. I just kind of saw your stuff, and I thought what you were doing on Instagram Live was really cool. I thought we'd try it here too. So, um, okay. So, what do you think about competitive spearfishing? I know that you've had a background in that. Is that a thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm here with it.
Okay.
I think that it has its place, but I'm sad that I think that it is kind of it's been on its way out for a long time, and the people that are most involved continue to shoot themselves in the foot with it. So
Mm.
it's mostly a thumbs down for me.
Okay, that's a very similar kind of feeling to a lot of the fishing tournaments. A lot of it goes to the organization and the rules, and then the politics that go into it as well. Okay, what do you think the cheapest thing that determines success or failure in your business is?
Say that again now.
The
What is
cheapest
the
thing.
cheapest thing?
Yeah. Is there something I could give you an example of what I think the cheapest thing that
Talking about like equipment?
yeah. Yeah, something that's crucial to your success that is very cheap, easy to find.
It sounds simplistic, but your mask. If you don't have the right mask, you got no reason to be in the water.
Hmm. Okay, I was going to say boat plug for me. If I don't have a boat plug, it's not happening. Okay, what's your absolute favorite fish to spear and why?
Oof. I got to give it a tie with dogtooth tunas and wahoo.
Mm.
I love dogtooth tunas just because I think they're the ultimate challenge. And that was the first major world record that I have that was kind of wow. And it held for many, many years. And then I beat it again with another one that just blew everybody out of the water. They are the perfect combination of, it's like having a big yellowfin tuna and a cubera personality and bodies combined. You shoot them and they're on the edge of the reef and they dive down 150 feet and wrap up in the rocks or go in a hole and break you off. Wahoo are, everyone is unique. I'm sure you've hunted mutton snappers. They're very similar in that each one has their own personality. And the trick is to be able to look at the whole school of them and be like, that's my bitch, and find the right one and be able to bring him over. And for me, I'm always patient enough to wait for the big ones because when those opportunities come, when you've got 100 of them there, I'm not going to pull the trigger on the first one. I've had many, many times where that opportunity has come up and I've been like, okay, this is your one chance to shoot the fish of a lifetime. Hold off and try to bring the biggest one to you. And there's just not a lot of people that are patient enough to do that. So
So
I've had,
are you
go ahead.
right next to them, kind of touching their arm, like, no, no, not yet, like, and then right there,
Correct. It's
or
timing.
yes,
It's timing.
but
Yep. And you
can
can
you
draw
have
them
that
in
kind of
too.
communication with them to where you're either tactile, you're
Oh yeah.
touching them, or they can see you all the time, or do you
Oh
prefer
yeah.
to be
I've got a,
behind them?
you talking about the
Your
client?
yeah, your client, yeah.
I've got them right beside me, and I've got a death grip on their arm, and I will not let them, and I will not let them leave the surface. And what I do is I just squeeze when the right one is coming, and that's part of the knowledge that we impart on our clients is how to do that themselves. Because as much as I would love to be there on every trip they do, it's just not realistic. And I tell people, I'm like, more so than any fish we're going to get this trip, the amount of knowledge that you're going to get each day is 20, 30 years of trying to figure it out on your own and even diving with other people, because this is our specialty. And I mean, it's pretty incredible to see the jump in clients' skill level,
Mm,
even in a very short period of time.
yeah, cool. Has there ever been a book that you've read that you liked so much that you gave away a copy?
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
Okay, what's the most
Um,
gifted book then?
a land remembered.
Who wrote that? Do you know?
Oh gosh,
What's it about? I've never read that book. A Land
a
Remembered.
a land remembered. Somebody will probably chime in here, and if somebody can look it up while we're doing this. So land remembered is about old Florida, basically,
Okay.
and a family that after the Civil War moved down to North Florida, out in the boonies, and basically started catching cattle and raising cattle, and then how they,
Nice.
made a living from it through generations.
That's
It's
what a
pretty
Florida
interesting.
cracker is. I learned
It
that
is.
from Robert
Patrick
Arrington.
Smith.
Told me the
That's right.
the story about why they call them Florida crackers, and
Hmm.
the whipping, and moving the cattle through all old Florida. Very
Hmm.
interesting. Okay, I'll put that one on my list.
Yep.
Um,
Patrick Smith is the author.
okay,
Thanks, guys.
who uh, who is the best spear fisherman in the world that you've never heard of,
G.R. Tar.
and who is he?
He's red tide spearfishing on the west coast of Florida.
Wow, there
He's
was
got
no hesitation there.
Yeah, definitely not. He's one of my best buddies, and a lot of what we figured out together, or on these long drives, me traveling all over, we just get on the phone and just talk and just figure stuff out. And he's very hands on too. But he just turned 60, and I put him up against any diver in the world. He won our nationals last year and beat everybody at 60 years old.
Nice.
He's a phenomenal diver. Like there's a picture on my Instagram or whatever. He shot a monster black, probably over 100 pounds, and all he got back was the head, and he shot it 127 feet free diving.
Dang.
It's like 2 years ago.
Beast.
Yeah,
That's
he's an animal.
beastly. All right, so we've all had in our career getting to whatever point it is that we are in our career. We've all had success. We've all had failure. I know you have. I have. What failure
Mhm.
has taught you the most?
Um, Judging people, honestly. And, like I said, the only thing that matters for us is that everybody comes back. And I'm almost able to tell over the phone now. When you first start a business, you're pretty hungry and you want to take everybody you possibly can. But learning to say no to people is difficult. When you know it's not the right thing, you need to be able to say no. And that's how you put yourself in trouble. We call it the race car mentality, because we've got some clients that are race car drivers, and it is all the people that we deal with are the absolute elite in whatever business they do. So they're very, very strong personalities and very driven people. Um, I've had so many of them tell me, you are the only person I've ever listened to in my life,
Yeah.
and that's very important because I'm the one that's going to help them get home. But it's up to them to want to. And there's some people that just do not have that synapse in their brain that has that self-preservation gene. So you got to be able to say no, when you know it's not right.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, that's when you know that you're doing pretty well, and the outdoor profession, I guess, is when you start being able to pick your clients and just saying, you know what, this is not a good fit. Like, we're going to go
Hmm.
out, you're going to catch some fish, or you're going to spearfish or whatever, but I really think that somebody else would be better for you. And
Yep.
you watch them go with that other person, and they have a wonderful relationship for 10
Hmm.
years, and you're just like, good, that was great,
Yeah.
because it just wasn't going to work out for us
Yep.
for whatever reason,
Yep.
personality wise or whatever. You guys are getting put on a boat, very close
Hmm.
quarters with people. So I would imagine you have to be and international travel and on and on and on.
Hmm.
That makes tight
You're
quarters makes for uh,
we we have no hours. We're 24/7 with our clients, and I mean some trips are 2 weeks. So from dawn till dusk and through the night, like if they want to do something, we're ready to roll. So personality is very key, and like you said, you um, recommend a client to somebody else. I've got three other guys that work with me, and I love these clients to death, but just personality wise and the way they like to do things, they'll end up being career clients for the guys that work with me, and
right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Because all in the end, I just want everybody to have fun.
Right. Yeah. Good attitude. Okay. So, what's one thing that the spearfishing community does not know about you?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I'm pretty open. Um, Gosh, I don't even know.
Okay. Well,
I'm gonna have to come back to that one.
you're an open book. All right. So,
Probably much about my wife, to be honest,
yeah, there you go.
because I keep her under wraps pretty good.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, you just had your two children there. Has
Hmm.
becoming a father changed your risk assessment or your risk tolerance at all?
Yeah, for sure. I've always got something in my mind, like um, I've always had that preservation gene, where I want to come home.
Hmm.
And the number one rule in freediving is don't dive alone. But there's been opportunities many times over the years where I dove alone; it just wasn't feasible. And then when I started dating my wife, and I knew there was no way I was ever going to upgrade from this, I didn't want to blow that. So, I'd be down and I'd have a chance at a fish and be like, you know what, this is not worth it.
Mm.
Let's go up. There'll be another chance for that, but a second here or there will make a big difference. When I first, started going on these trips when I had my kids, I would take, and I still do, I take something of my kids with me
Hmm.
every day, and I usually put it on my knife so that it's on my weight belt. So I'm constantly there touching it, and it's just a good reminder. And
Yeah.
it shows the clients too, like, hey, he wants to come back. You
Right.
you need to want to come back too.
I love that. That's so cool. Um, okay. So, I want to leave time for a couple of questions from the people here. So we'll get to one. Chris H.
Mhm.
Jarrett says, "What tips do you have for getting from spearing in 70 to 80 feet of water to 100 to 120?"
That's level two class for sure. And again, contact me for that because the majority, all the free dive classes were written for free divers. Um, we teach it for spearfishing. So we teach the same content, but we teach more body positioning and how to hunt and incorporate that, which is two different kind of skill sets. Because being a strong free diver is only so valuable. You've got to be a strong spear fisherman too. Like you got to be a good hunter.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to know before we get to other questions is you're going international trips. You're doing something that is extremely dangerous. You're taking people with a variety of skill levels and interest levels, probably. Um, what kind of medical do you have? Are you like an EMT or do you have any sort of medical background?
Lots,
Yeah.
lots. So from working on the ships, like when I stopped working on the ships, the last 5 years that I worked, I was a captain. So basically, I have a license that I can captain anything that floats. Um, I have a list of certifications like this, from fork truck driver to crane operator, and about this much of it is medical stuff. Because when you're on a ship, if something happens and you're
Right.
between China and California, you're it. You got to deal with it. So I have had a lot of it, and we do trauma training as well um, with our other guides. So everybody is trained up on that. Our big challenges are boat strikes. If somebody ever got hit by a boat or a prop,
Yeah.
then obviously shark bites and getting stuck or something, allergic reactions, all that stuff. So everybody, no matter what you do in life, should have at least some basic classes.
Sure. Are there ever places that are so remote, like when, I mean, you have, you know, a 150-foot boat can go pretty much anywhere, I would imagine.
Hmm.
I mean, you're with people who have boats that could absolutely go anywhere. Does
Hmm.
it ever get so far out that you start factoring in, okay, well, there's going to be no medical opportunity here?
We have a plan. So that's one of the assessment. We do like a risk assessment,
Yeah.
and the clients always have an out. And we've done it with the Bahamas a lot as well. And there's our big, and this is something for everybody, whether you're fishing or diving in the Bahamas or when you're far out, you need to be able to make the decision. Okay, is it better for me to go to the Bahamas right now, or even if it's 120 miles, to just start hauling ass back to the U.S. and call the Coast Guard on the way? And generally, that is a better call, is to start running back to the U.S. and call the Coast Guard, because they can come out a lot farther to pick you up. And in the Bahamas, man, it's scary. Like when I cut my finger off in the Bahamas, and I walked out of the emergency room, and because I mean I felt like I was going to bleed to death.
Right.
It was pitiful, and
So
I stopped the bleeding and everything.
it's
Yeah.
just better to make the run back, get to Miami
Hmm.
or Fort Lauderdale or wherever your port is in some
Hmm.
cases. Yeah, I can see that. One question here: what kind of dry land training can you do to improve your breath hold?
Just staying in good biking, running, anything like that is going to help. You can research online breathing tables,
Hmm.
and there's some apps to help your breathing. But honestly, being in good shape, being able to relax in the water, doing yoga, and doing that deep diaphragmatic breathing helps immensely.
Hmm, that's cool. Except don't do that around the water, right? It's always been
Yeah,
the
don't ever train in the water. The majority of deaths are in the pool. So never train in the pool unless you're with another certified free diver buddy.
got it. Okay. Um, I had one of my friends, Toby Hansen. He asked what your dream fish would be to spear. It big or small doesn't matter. Is there a fish that has eluded you or one that is particularly attractive to you?
Big eye tuna.
Big eye tuna.
So
And
one of my goals this year, this is a challenge because I don't get that many opportunities to actually spear because I'm usually guiding. But one of my goals this year is to shoot a big eye with a pole spear.
mm, with a pole
Um,
spear. Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So I've had clients shoot two or three of them, big ones. Like the smallest one I think was 150 or 180, and we had another client shoot a 282, and I had one come up in the chum a couple years back that I thought was every bit of like 275, 280, and I chummed him for 45 minutes until I ran out of chum, and the clients missed him 7 times.
Oh,
And I think the video is up on my YouTube, but it was here actually in Ascension, so you can see how blue the water is around this sailfish.
mm-hmm.
It was so painful. Like they missed so many times, and I was talking about this the other night on the podcast. Like I came to the surface and I was crying at the end of it. They're
I
like,
know the
"I'm
feeling.
so sorry,"
I know the
but
feeling. It seems like that would be, you know, you can have the same feeling with a 8 pound permit when the thing is
yeah.
just dying to eat the fly in front of the boat, and it's
Mhm.
just like, I mean, you could literally throw it out there with your hand and they don't get it for whatever reason.
So so here's a question for you. So having spent a lot of time both in shallow and deep water, do you think permit are a deep water fish or a shallow water fish?
I think they're a deep water fish that has a shallow water behavior. I think that
Mhm.
that's a learned behavior, just
Mhm.
like the mutton snapper. I think the mutton snapper is a learned behavior too. They go up there and they can eat on the flat. That's probably not where they're the most comfortable, which is why they're hard to catch and really spooky because they
Mhm.
don't have a hydrodynamic body like a bonefish. Like a
Mhm.
bonefish is obviously a fish that is probably more comfortable in shallow water than deep water, even though you catch them in deep water and you catch them in shallow water. But it
Mhm.
just seems like that is one that has just, you know, is perfectly designed for the shallow water. Where the
Mhm.
permit, it still looks like an offshore fish that's just up in really shallow water. So
You wouldn't think that a fish that lives up on the flats would be that dark either, like
yeah,
with that top fin and everything. And
yeah,
we see, and you do as well. I mean, you guys fish the heck out of them. I cannot tell you how many thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands we see on the reef, in caves, out in the blue water. Like I think it's a rarity that they come up on the flats, and
Yeah.
that's one of the allures for you guys is, okay, hey, this is such a cool fish already. They're so powerful. When you hook them, they are going to get off this flat and go back to where they want to be.
Right. Yeah, they're my favorite fish by far. I think just because I started in Key West and that was just the kind of the target destination for people to go down there. So they were already hard to catch. And so if you came back and you didn't catch any, it was no big deal. So as a very rookie guide, I was like, well, that's a good one for me to go for because they're, did you catch any? Nope. And it was like, it was cool, So I honestly, it took the pressure off fishing for a fish like that, where some people would be like, man, that's the fish that you decided to go for. But like for me, it was like no pressure because very few people caught them. And so if you didn't catch one, it wasn't like, you go tarpon fishing and everybody catches 3 or 4 and you catch 0 day after day after day. So I always thought it was less pressure, but I love them. I just think that they're a very interesting fish. They all got different personalities. You approach each of them a little bit differently based upon the behavior that you see, very much like spearfishing. Like you're talking about the wahoo, like that's the one right there. That's
Right.
the one. That's the one that keeps doing this little turn, and here's the way I'm going to get him. I mean, it's the same kind of thing with permit. It's like you look out there on some of them, and you're just like, not even worth trying. That thing is so edgy that we're never getting close to him. Where this one coming down here is so stupid, we're definitely going to catch it.
Yeah.
But you don't sometimes, But
so here's the next question. When's the last time you kept one?
The last time the tail got bit off of one by a shark, which is it happens regularly. But a little lemon shark or something that comes in can bite the tail off of a permit. I mean, and that's usually where they take them out at the motor, and then I always keep them, and they're very good. But I don't keep them if just for keeping them. There are other fish. I just catch a few snappers on the way home, and we'll be good.
Which I think I already know the answer to this because this is a total Keys fish. But what are your thoughts on spear and permit?
Well, I would imagine that they'd be pretty easy to spear, just with my experience of swimming with a few. I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. I think that there's a big controversy right now about, the Western dry rocks and what's going on out there and just this complete protection. And I don't even know where I stand on that, quite honestly, because I don't think that you have I mean, the flats guides are not going to like what I have to say, but you have some data. Who knows if you don't have the other side providing data. So the data could be very one-sided. I don't know. I think that it's a very emotional issue because both the offshore fishermen that want to fish at Western dry rocks love the permit. They want to catch them. It's a big part of what they do. The flats guides obviously love the permit to a point of being like a religion. And so you have differing opinions, but both parties want to protect the fish. So I don't know. Do I think that you could spear permit? I mean, if you have a limit on them that is sustainable, one per vessel per day, I guess, that. I mean, I think that the fishery, that you always have to be fair to all people, all fishermen, because if you completely exclude the commercial fishermen, or you have the bait guys versus the fly guys, or the spear fishermen versus the conventional fishermen, you know what? Generally, the fishermen lose because there's not a lot of us anyway. We all want to protect the fish so that we can keep doing what we love to do. And then if you split us into these little groups, it's very easy for somebody to come out there and just say, well, you know what? We can have it our way, which is we want to catch all of these. Or the law enforcement says, you know what? There's no way we can enforce what kind of fly these guys are throwing. There's no way we can enforce what kind of spear these guys are using or how many. We're just going to close it down because we don't have enough law enforcement to do what we want. So I don't know. I don't like closure. I think that once things close, you rarely get them back.
Coming back out.
So, I mean, you look at Bahia Honda, not Bahia Honda, Boca Chica Beach. When I first started fishing in Key West, you could fish all the way up and down Boca Chica Beach. Now, you would think that you were committing a felony if you went there and threw a cast net or whatever. Yet,
Really?
jet skis run up and beach themselves on the bar, and it's just a weird thing. But they closed that down and said, we're going to do fish counts here, and we will reopen this when the fish counts show that we should. Which, in my opinion, I mean, there's never ever been another word about reopening Boca Chica Beach, not one, and we just lost it. And so I don't think that that was the result that anyone wanted. And I don't think that if they just closed Western Dry Rocks to fishing entirely, that that's the result that anyone wants. Like, I just think that we all ought to try to get together, understand what each each group wants, and then try to figure out how that's a sustainable way to move on. And
Right.
sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes fishing methods are too effective, and you're going to eliminate the species like that. And I don't know. What do you think about spear and permit?
We shoot them. I mean, it's a good eating fish. As far as I can see, the numbers of them are good. It seems like they repopulate pretty darn well, and we just do it within reason, and majority of the time we pass them up. And you tell the clients, like, look, if you really want one, you can get one, but we're going to get other fish. There's other stuff that's better eating. These things fight hard, and you got to make the call. If there's Goliaths around, they're going to get them. You can, if there's a school of APs, African Pompano and permit on the same wreck, 9 out of 10 permit are going to get eaten by a Goliath or by a shark. The sharks are not afraid of them. The APs, though, when you shoot those, the Goliaths don't usually get them, and the sharks won't eat them. We've only had like one AP ever eaten.
Isn't that funny? How that,
I think they're scared of them.
It's a funny thing though. Like, there's just like certain baits, like you put down a certain bait and a fish won't bite it, but you put down another one that's slightly different, like a blue runner versus something else, and they just, like a blue runner versus a Jack Crevalle. You get bit on a blue runner like immediately, but if you put down a little Jack Crevalle about the same size, not so much, in a lot of places. And I don't know what that is or why. What do you think about the lionfish situation?
It's so far out of control. There's obviously no way to ever stop it. Like, it started with whatever, one or a half a dozen of them. It's unstoppable. I've unfortunately been hit twice by them. It is not fun.
Now, when you say you got hit by them, you're free swimming and get hit, or you spear one and you're getting it back in the boat or putting it in the cooler or something, and you get hit?
Free swimming. The
Really?
most recent time I got hit, I was getting a big grouper out of a hole in the Bahamas, and as I was pulling the fish out, he pulled me, and there was a lionfish right there, and it went into my shoulder here. And the first time I got it, I was filming a client, and I was coming down to the bottom, and I was like, oh, and I hadn't even hit the bottom yet, and I looked, and I was like, oh, come on. And that one hit me like right here in the wrist. Let me tell you, that sucked.
So what do you do?
The number one thing to do is to put as hot of water as you can possibly take on it, kind of like a stingray. And then like take Tylenol or Benadryl or something like that. But that one, because it was so close to all the veins and blood vessels and everything, holy cow, it screwed me up, man. I was sick for like probably 12 hours.
Wow.
It sucks.
Yeah, I've heard of people kind of like the COVID-19 thing. Some people are getting very sick, other people not so much. I've heard the same thing with the lionfish stings, that some people, like, I know one guy almost lost his hand, and I don't know if he just got MRSA in there as well as the lionfish sting, but he really had a hard time with his hand. Other people, I hear, it really hurt, but no danger of
it
losing.
Definitely depends on where they hit you and with what fins and how bad. Both the ones that hit me were not very big ones. They were only this big, and I mean, the second time the one that hit me in the shoulder, I was like totally prepared. I was on a 53 Hydrosport, and I said, go boil water. So we had like as hot of water as I could take, and I took a bunch of Tylenol, and it was fine. I dove through the rest of the day, no worries. But that first one, I mean, I was down for the count for like 12 hours.
Yeah. So a couple of people were asking what hot water does, and then Don the Hasselhoff said it denatures the poison, denatures the protein of the poison, that was my understanding of what it does too. But it makes it stop hurting, just like a
That's all
stingray.
that matters for me. Makes it stop hurting. And obviously clean it with soap and water immediately, as you should with any of those different things. And part of our stuff that we do with kids on our trips is we go through like basic boat safety, different stuff on the boat to teach them about the boat. And for XYZ, shark bite, stingray spine, lionfish, what is the thing to do for that? Jellyfish or whatever. So that they take that knowledge with them, and it's basically a summer camp for kids, on the boat every day.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You and I would imagine that a lot of your clients are bringing their family. Like this is their family kind of thing, and you almost become part of the family, just like a lot of the people that I know that work on private boats, like as a fishing guide or just the captain. They kind of become part of that family. That's and I'm sure you have clients that you've been working with for a long time that are like family, right?
Oh yeah, all of them.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more questions, and then I know you gotta go. You're one of the things that I didn't read in your resume is I read this long resume, and then at the end it says also runs homeschool, and that is the most.
I don't run homeschool. I'm an assistant. I'm an assistant
principal.
Yeah, and janitor.
Yeah,
mostly a janitor.
So, of all the things that you've done and all the fish that you've shot, is that easier or harder than being assistant janitor and assistant principal at the homeschool during COVID-19?
This is way harder, being assistant janitor.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was telling you before we started, I was telling you my kids are now 22, 20, and 16. It's a little different having them at home, but man, to be cooped up in a house with a couple of little kids, I mean, you are getting outside, right?
Oh yeah, my wife is a saint. Like she's crushing the homeschool thing. So thankfully I've got her.
Yeah, cool. Okay, this last question came in. What's the weirdest object you've seen or found underwater?
Oh man, I found a lot of weird stuff. I think the weirdest things. I found a number of good sized shark's teeth like this, like actually in the rivers here in Florida, like out at our hunting camp. But gosh, the weirdest thing, I saw a sawfish the other day, which was pretty wild. That's the first one I've seen in all the millions of dives that I've done. It was giant. It was like 14 foot. I put the video up on my YouTube.
Was that deep water or shallow water, or how?
It was like 85, 90.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We see quite a few of them. We see quite a few of them in shallower water. They like those channels and stuff, and then they'll get up on the flat as well. Actually, I thought I had. I don't know. It'd probably take too long to find it here, but I do have a drone video of one up on the flat. Okay, so what? Two last questions. What's your definition of a successful trip?
Everybody has a time of their life. I want people to say at the end of the trip, that was the best trip of my life. And I can't tell you how often that happens. And each time we're like, well, next one, we're going to have to do something better. And we do. And I kid you not, like these people, that we go with are such wonderful humans. Like they've done everything. They've gone around the world. They're very humble and they're all family oriented. And they're just looking to have a good time. So they put a lot of trust in us to plan, their yearly adventures with their family and do cool stuff. And it creates that constant challenge to do something better, And I when I look at trips, I think big.
Yeah.
Like when people are like, oh, well, let's go dive. I'm like, all right, but let's like really go dive. Let's really do something cool. And that's what gives us our edge is, we go way beyond what anybody would ever think.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was thinking about that last night when I was thinking about all the different questions I wanted to ask you and things. And one thing that struck me is, when I first started guiding in Wyoming, I've fished on a couple of rivers. And at the time I thought, man, I'll never learn this river as well as that guy over there. And then the next thing, a couple years later, you're like, oh, I got that river down pretty good. Now I'm going to move and I'm going to find this river and this river and this river. And then you start fishing in the Keys and it's like, oh boy, I hope I can find my way to the other side of the Northwest Channel, and then you're like, but Steve Huff, he knows all the Keys and he knows 10,000 islands. And how in the world would he ever figure out where to fish? I mean, that must be so confusing to know where the fish are in all those places. And sooner or later, it was like, okay, now I know a lot more of the keys. And yes, it was confusing, but it was also very comforting to know, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's blowing 25 out of the north. These are the places that I can go. And when I read about what you do, you're doing this in the world. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there is no condition, there's no season, there's no anything that could happen. You got a typhoon over here, you got a hurricane over here. Well, that means that we go over here to this other part of the world.
Right.
How,
Exactly right.
how did that develop for you? Like, all of a sudden you're like operating on a worldwide scale. And I know a lot of that is the customers that you have and the equipment that they have, but
Mm-hmm.
once you gain all that knowledge, is that like comforting to be able to go anywhere in the world, or is it confusing at times? Like, man, there's this is happening and this is happening, and you could go surf over here, and this, oh man, I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do.
So the most frustrating thing, it's frustrating, honestly, more than anything, because I know where the absolute best place is right now, is not being able to be there.
Yeah.
So I have major FOMO, and all the other guides make fun of me because I have the worst FOMO, because I want the fish more than anybody. Even though I'm not pulling the trigger or reeling them in or whatever, I want them more than anybody. And when I was doing it on my own, I spent my time and money to be at the absolute best place all the time. And if I didn't know that place, I would find out. And that cumulative knowledge I keep in a book that sacrilegiously I call the Bible. And I've kept track of it. But I mean, I know it now. So if a client says, hey, I've got a week, the boat is here, where should we be this week? And I said, this is the absolute best place to be right here. And if that's not good, here's second, third, fourth, and fifth options. And those are the best like comments or suggestions that we make, to clients. They have a general idea what they want to do, but let us use our intellectual property, which is where and when to go, and put you on the right stuff. And that's the stuff that is so valuable for you guys too. You think about how well you know the keys. Like, it took that long to find that information out. There's some guys that'll come down there new that haven't been down there very long, and they'll figure it out pretty quick. And that's a skill set, to be able to go anywhere and figure it out. And those are the people that I respect most in fishing and spearfishing and hunting, is the people that can show up anywhere in the world and figure it out. And some people are just fishy and know what to look for. But I've literally gone to college to figure out, the ocean currents and everything that goes on in the ocean, and the right, conditions. And you can figure out that, okay, you need XYZ in Key West for the wahoo to show up, for the blackfins to show up, for the tarpon to start migrating, for the shrimp run to start. If that's possible here, take that and move it to an area that is similar. Like, okay, Okinawa, Japan has very similar conditions that we have, because we don't have, they have the equivalent of our Gulf Stream, which is the Crucio current, called the Black Current. And it's amazing how similar it is. So you have the same conditions that make the same thing happen over there. And being able to do all that, to put together this huge recipe, that's what makes my job amazing. I love it.
Man, that's awesome. Well, kudos to you, man. You've done something that is really cool, in my opinion. These are the people that I have the most respect for. The people that can take something that is extremely unorthodox or extremely unlikely, and then to create a career out of that and thrive. And that's exactly what you seem to have been able to do, and it's super cool. So the last question I have for you: what is your definition of success? We just talked about a successful trip, but what is the definition of success?
Happiness for yourself and those that are closest to you.
Love it. I love it. Cam, thank you so much for this. I appreciate your time. We did a weird thing here with Instagram Live and asking people questions. I'd love to try to do another podcast in person with you sometime.
Yeah, man.
And I'd love to get together with you and do the class, one of your classes. If you got a class, maybe I can drop in on,
for sure,
or something like that. I would love that. That would be fantastic. Okay, can you tell everybody how to get in touch with you?
Cameron Kirkconnell. Just hit me up on Instagram, or you can send me an email at CameronKirkconnell@gmail.com. And we'll help you get set up wherever you need to go, help with gear recommendations, whenever clients go on a trip, they call us and we put together their entire gear package and just have it sent straight to them so that they have the right stuff for doing what we do.
Okay. All right, man. Go back to homeschooling. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I love the conversation. It was awesome. Okay.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Tom.
See ya. Okay. So that's it. Thank you for that, Cam. That was amazing. Man, what an incredible story of a career. To take something that unlikely and then to be able to thrive at it just like he has been able to do, that's truly amazing. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. It was kind of a little bit weird because I was having some Facebook issues and it didn't go exactly as planned, but